Here we go. All right, we made it here. Hi, hello. Give me a hello in the chat if you are here, or if you're watching this as a replay. I wanted to jump on and answer any questions about this challenge and talk through sort of what you're seeing, what you're experiencing. Did you guys get a chance to do the day one assignment? Did you do that already? Let me know in the chat if you did. So again, let me just sort of give you an overview of what's happening, what to expect this week. We are in the middle of our 5-day build your own app challenge. We're really just starting our 5-day build your own app challenge. There were some pre-challenge homework assignments that I did, and I want to do a quick review of some of those assignments today just to talk them through, because the challenge is about building a replica of a existing and famous app. We're building Tinder actually in the challenge, and you've already seen this because you maybe have already started on day one. If you've not already started your day one lessons and video, all you have to do is go to the link that I sent you, and you'll be able to see each of the day one at least video that I've already launched. And then tomorrow I'll be sending you the day two video. And there's also a special bonus for those of you who are able to jump into the program and the academy. And so there's a special bonus in there as well for you too. But what I want to do, let me share my screen, because I want to pull up a quick overview of some of the things we talked about actually in the pre-challenge assignment. Let me know in the chat, did you get a chance to do the pre-challenge assignment? Did you see that? You know what I'm talking about? The pre-challenge assignment. Let's see here. So give me one moment. I'm going to pull something up so I can share my screen with you. And also let me know like what questions you have. Are there any questions that popped up for you about the challenge, about your app idea, about the academy? Let me know what questions you have. You can just type them into the chat. This is interactive and live, and we'll talk about them. Okay, give me one moment. I'm going to pull up something where I can share my screen for you. And in the interim, I'll give you a moment to both say hello in the chat and also put your top question that you have about app building in there. Here we go. Here we go. And I will share this screen because I want to do a quick overview of what we discussed, as I mentioned in the pre-challenge assignment. First of all, I introduced myself. I won't do a full reintroduction. Let me see here. Can you see my screen? Let me know if you can see my screen. Yeah? You can see it? You should be able to see it. It may take a moment, but you should be able to see it now. Okay, so if, hey John, how's it going? So my name is Tara. I'm a tech entrepreneur. Before becoming an entrepreneur, I used to work at Google and Foursquare and Microsoft. I was not building apps in those roles. I was working on the business side. And in 2014, I started my own company, and I ended up building that company without writing any code. And so what I'm super excited to be sharing with you this week and the challenge is the process of coming up with app ideas without any tech people, without charging for them, all that good stuff. And I've been super blessed to be featured in some awesome publications, Entrepreneur magazines featuring me in their Young Millionaires edition. Forbes has done a fun article on how to succeed in Silicon Valley when you don't look like Mark Zuckerberg. And I've also done a TED Talk on building apps. And so as we talked about in the pre-challenge assignment, you know, the challenge is about building a replica of an existing app. We're building Tinder, of course, as you know. But the App Dreamers Academy is the separate coaching program that I run. And that's not for building a replica of an app. That's for building your specific app. So we're going to build and market your own app idea in the App Dreamers Academy. And I don't have a link for you that I can drop into the chat, but you saw it at the bottom of the video, and I'll also email it to you, the link to get enrolled into the App Dreamers Academy. When you get signed up before Tuesday, so tomorrow at midnight, there is a there's a bonus and there's a discount. So I'm waiving the sign up fee. The $297 enrollment fee is going to be waived, so it's just $39 to get in. And also there's a bonus. I have my app planning tool that you're going to get access to as well. So those are the two bonuses. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll see what I'm talking about when we go into the day one assignment, if you haven't already done that. So this, hey, okay, yeah. John says, yes, I see it. Lisa says, yes. New Era says, I see it. Okay, perfect. Good, good, good. So this, did anybody see this already where we talked about in the pre-challenge assignment how to come up with a strong app idea? Let me know in the chat. I'll give you a second to type this in. Let me know. Put a 1 in the chat if you already have an app idea, and put a 2 in the chat if you could use some help coming up with an app idea. Let me know. Type a 1 in the chat if you already have an app idea, and 2 if you need some help coming up with one. Let me know. I'll give you a moment to do that. That way I can sort of tailor our live Q&A and our live discussion to what you need to see and what would be helpful for you. Cool, cool. Yeah, so 1 if you already have an app idea, 2 if you don't have an app idea but you need some help coming up with one. Cool, cool. Okay, great. So let me just talk briefly about the process of coming up with an app idea, because it's going to be useful for you. It will be less useful in this challenge that we're doing this week, because the challenge is building Tinder. But in the academy, you're going to want to start thinking about your own app idea and the things that you can do for yourself, right? So Lisa says, too, you could use some help coming up with an idea. Great, great. Let's talk about that. So this is what I'm getting ready to show you is the SMART idea formula. It's a series of questions to help you brainstorm a strong app idea that you're already qualified to build. Like literally today, you're qualified to build this. And the way that this works is you want to think about what are the things that you already know something about? What are some areas where you maybe take it for granted, but you already know something about it? So you may be you are what you do for work or what you do for a hobby, for example, right? So those are some things that you can think about in terms of how this works. So this is Josh. Josh is an entrepreneur that I have worked with before, and he is in my training program. And so what he does for work, that was the first thing that he thought about. Like, okay, well, can I create something around what I do for work? And he's a music teacher, so he decided he can create something around what he does for work as a music teacher. And then the second thing that he thought through was like, okay, well, what's something that's hard or time consuming about my work? And it's harder time consuming about my work, right? He thought about it. And it's like, well, what about the fact that I have to go back and forth and travel back and forth between different schools in order to go teach there, right? That's something that's hard or time consuming, right? And then he thought, okay, well, what could I do to alleviate some of that stress, right? And this is just the process, a series of questions he asked himself to brainstorm. He's like, okay, well, maybe students can log in and they can complete lessons, and they can work in teams to compose songs on the app, and teachers could give grades, and I could sell it to schools. And this is a true story. This is exactly what Josh did. He built an app for schools to teach music classes. So he has 23 schools in the state of Virginia who are using his app. He's done $30,000 in revenue, and he's also gotten a $50,000 investment from people who want to see him take it to the next level. He did all of that in 6 months. So if you want help coming up with an app idea, this is what I want you to type. I want you to tell me in the chat right now. I'm going to give you a moment, and I'm going to answer some questions. I want you to tell me what you do for work. Type that into the chat right now. If you're in between jobs, that's fine. If you are thinking about different, like you're a full-time mom, for example, that is completely valid. Put that in the chat. So let me know what you do for work. While you're doing that, John has a question about white labeling that I'm looking at. I'm looking at it on my phone. I'm going to go into that in one moment. Let me walk through this activity, John, and then we'll talk about that as well. Cool. And then agenda exec, if you want to start again, so you should email my team. You should send an email to support@appswithoutcode.com, support@appswithoutcode.com, and tell them exactly what you just said in the chat, and we'll be able to help you get restarted. If you're already in the program and you just want to start again, send them an email, my team, and they'll be able to help you out. Yeah, cool. Okay. So, think about what you do for work. So Lisa says personal development coach for youth and young adults. Perfect. Great. Great. So, and then I also want to ask you a second question, which is what's something that's hard or time consuming about what you do for work? Right? All of us have a piece of our job that just like it's kind of hard, it takes a lot of time, it's just kind of rough work to do, right? And then you want to brainstorm if you built an app to alleviate some of that stress, like what could happen, right? Now you can also do this. I'm going to fast forward here a little bit um, around what you do for a hobby. So it doesn't have to just be centered around what you do for work. It could be something else that you know something about. For example, this is Carlos. Carlos did the smart idea formula, but he did it for what he does for a hobby. So the first thing I asked him was, well, what do you do in your free time? And he's like, well, I play basketball. That's his hobby. Right. I want you to, I'm ask you to do this now. Type into the chat. Tell me what a hobby is that you have. What's something that you have that's a hobby? And Lisa, as a personal development coach for youth and young adults, like what's something that's hard or time consuming about your job currently? Great. So you think about what you do for your free time, and then you also want to ask yourself what's hard or time consuming about that hobby, right? This is the formula that you can use to come up with app ideas, come up with business ideas. And then you just want to brainstorm, okay, if you created something to alleviate some of that stress, what could happen when someone logs in? And here's a list, by the way, to help you of things that apps commonly do. When you ask, like, well, what could the app do? Here's a list of really straightforward things that apps commonly do. Apps commonly will recommend things, right? Think like Tinder, where it's recommending a date for you. Or apps can give you a directory of resources. Think Yelp, where they give you like a directory of things and resources and restaurants and whatever it might be that you need. Or apps often let people buy and sell things from each other. Think like Airbnb, right? Where you can buy and sell things in a marketplace. Or they allow you to connect it socially in a community, right? Where like think Instagram, think Facebook, where you can connect with people. Or they let people track something. Think like Fitbit, where you're tracking your health, your steps, all those sorts of things. Or they could let people book. And actually, for tracking something, it doesn't even have to be like a number tracking. You could track like have you heard of the software called Salesforce? Salesforce helps you track like the sales progress of something, right? Or people could book a service and track the progress of a service. Uber is an example of this, right? Where you track the progress or teach something, right? Where there's lessons and videos and tutorials. So if you're wondering like what kind of app idea could I create, I want you to think about the smart idea formula. What do you do for work or a hobby? What's one thing that's hard or time consuming about that thing? And if you did something to alleviate that stress, what could it do? Here's a list of things to help you brainstorm. All right, so I just wanted to do that quick mini overview of that lesson just because it's super important. We talked about this in the pre-challenge assignments, but I wanted to really talk to you about it so that that was clear. Cool. Okay. So I'm going to move on to some more questions. By the way, if you have questions about your app idea, about anything, about the challenge, please type it into the chat so that I can answer it for you. John has a question. So John is saying, I'm actually already built an app and I'm stuck because I don't know what to do with it. And you want to white label the app specifically, and you're not sure how to do that. Now, John, I have a question for you. Are you asking about technically what buttons should you click in order to white label it? Or are you asking from like a marketing positioning perspective what you need to do to white label it? Which are you asking there? And by the way, I'm going to catch everybody up on what John is talking about in a moment about white labeling. I'll give John a second to answer that question. But if you don't know what white labeling is that John's talking about, I'll give you a quick overview of what exactly he's talking about here. If you're not sure, give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen again to show you. Let's see. Let me pull it up. And then John, again, my question for you, you can type the answer in the chat. Are you asking a technical question like what do you need to click in order to white label your app? Or are you asking a business question like how do you get customers and position it in order for that? Okay, marketing, great. So who are your customers, John? who do you want to white label this to? And what I'll do is right here, right now, we'll walk through your next steps for marketing, and we'll sort of use you as an example so other people can see as well what you do with your app idea. Yeah. Lisa says, what's hard about your job? Getting um, too used to complete or getting people used to completing their assignments on time. Is that what you're saying? Or getting too used to completing? What do you mean by that? And I think you're saying like getting people to complete their assignments on time is something that's hard in that, right? So if we created an app that tracked who got their assignments in on time and gave rewards to the people who got their assignments in on time, that's something that you could create, right? That would be something that tracks it and gives people rewards. You get a bonus for it. Maybe there's a leaderboard so that you get competitive with your friends about getting your assignments in on time, or maybe it can track who has their assignments in on time and who doesn't have their assignments in on time. Those are just some things, but I bet not only you as a personal development coach could use that, but I bet every other personal development coach could also use that as well, right? Okay, so while John is telling me who his target customer is, because we're going to talk about marketing, I just want to catch everybody else up to speed about white labeling. So white labeling is an option for charging more for your app idea, right? Because so many people, like most people assume when they come up with an idea for an app, they assume that the app needs to be free or 99 cents or something like that, right? It'd be free or 99 cents. But the problem with that, the specific problem with making your app free or 99 cents is that, let's say that you want to make $60,000 this year with your app idea, right? Well, if you do that, then you need 60,606 new customers every single year, right? To make that work. That's a lot of people. So what it means is that you're really going to have to bust your butt on marketing just to pay yourself, not to get help, not to include anything else, but just to pay yourself. You're really going to have to bust your butt on marketing. So the question is, what if you charged more for your people to use your app? And this is where John's question about white labeling, which is something that I often teach, come in, because let's say that you charge $50 a month. Well, if you did that, you would only need 166 customers to make an extra $100,000 this year. There's a big difference between needing 60,000 and needing 166, right? Big difference there. And so we want to structure something so that you don't have to bust your butt on marketing to get 60,000 customers. You can make it work with a fewer amount. And so that's where white labeling comes in. And John, I'm going to bring in your example now, because you said, I asked you who your customers are. And I want to pay special attention to this because I already see what's kind of throwing you off here. And I'm going to get you super clear right here and right now. So you said into the chat, my customer, I said, who are your customers? And you said mostly customers, a little bit with college or institutes. So I'm going to assume that when you say mostly customers, you mean individual people. Is that correct? This is where you have your challenge. And I want to point it out and spot it out so that you can see it really clearly. Because white labeling is for companies. White labeling is for companies. It's not for individual consumers. It's for companies. So if you white label, you're going to white label for a company. I'm assuming that when you say consumers, you mean, or customers, you mean anybody in the world can use it. I could be wrong, John. So can you clarify that for me? Is it true that you're white labeling for the colleges and the institutes, correct? Not for the individual customers. You're going to white label for colleges. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, great. Great. So your next step, let me explain to everybody what white labeling is, and then I'm going to show you a demonstration of what your next step will be, because you got to start getting some colleges on the phone. Right. And by the way, John, if you are in my program, you know that there are lessons step by step to show you exactly how to do this. So you should have done those marketing lessons already. And if you've not, we're going to go through an overview of some of those things now. Right. But you're going to white label the business who white label the app for a business who'll pay you. So the first thing you have to do is you have to ask yourself, what kinds of companies or organizations would want to have their own version of this app? In John's case, the answer is colleges or institutes, but it could be really whoever. And what you do is you make a copy of your app. So your app is complete and you just make a copy of it. All you got to do is make a copy. And then you take your logo off of the app and you put the company's logo on to the app, right? And all you have to do then is you're charging them to take credit essentially for the app. But all you have to do is make a copy of the app, take your logo off, put their logo on, and you can do this for an unlimited number of customers, right? You can do it for an unlimited number of colleges, etc. Right? So Josh is a good example of this, who I was talking about, who had the music app. And so at first he assumed that he should charge individual people for the app. He was going to charge $4.99, $5 for the app. But then he asked himself, well, wait a minute. What kinds of companies or organizations would want to have their own version of this app? What kinds of companies or organizations would want to have their own version of the app? And he thought, well, the schools would like to have their own version. And so instead of charging $5 at a time, he charged $5,000 at a time, right? For each school. And it goes 5,000 and up, depending on how many students he has. So John, for you, I'm going to go to LinkedIn for a second, because John said in the chat that John is looking for colleges and institutes to sell his app to and to white label his app to. So if we are doing our marketing, and by the way, this is all of the stuff that we work through in the academy. I'm giving you a sneak peek of this. But if John wants to market to college and institutes, the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the job title? And John, I'm going to ask you to type the answer to this into the chat, but we can all help John too. So if you have an idea, please type it into the chat as well. The question is, what is the job title of someone who would make a decision on that, to be the decision maker at a college or institute for your app? Now, John, you know the most about your app here out of everyone, so you will probably be best positioned to tell us this. But if you can maybe tell us who you think what's the job title of the decision maker, that's our first step. And what we're going to do once you tell us that is we're going to type it into LinkedIn to find those people. Because once you've created your app, like John has, who's gone through the academy and gone through the program, the next step is to start getting customers for it. And we have to find where your customers are on the internet so we can start reaching out and talking to them, right? So, John, I'll give you a second to type that into the chat to tell us the job title of your customers. But this is actually a really good example because it's showing us what the process needs to be for us to move forward. Oh, got it. Lisa says, I'm driving and Google Translate is saying stuff, not me. No worries. I have been in that position before, so I totally understand. You said, what's hard or time consuming about my job is getting the youth to complete their assignments on time. Right. That's right. Right. So I think I understood the first time what you probably meant. And so some of the examples that I gave about what your app could do are still valid. Right. Okay. While John is telling us what the job title might be, let's sort of take a look at this, because maybe let's say that you are creating an app that is to help college counselors. I'm making this up sort of with a combination of things that you guys have said, but help college counselors place the students into jobs, right? Well, our first question is, well, what's the job title of someone who would make a decision on something like that? And maybe it could be college counselor, right? So let's type that into a search. This is where it becomes extremely helpful to be super specific. Like if you say, hey, my business is just for customers, it's very hard to do marketing. If you go narrow, we always say the riches are in the niches. If you go narrow and specific and say, all right, well, I'm going to market this to college counselors and search for it. And we're going to make sure we're looking at the people tab. We don't want job postings or groups or schools. We want people here. So we're going to pick people. And you'll see that there are almost 1 million college counselors right here on LinkedIn. Here's a strategy for us to go and talk with people. And inside of the academy, there is a link Inside of the academy, there's training, I'm sorry, on how to do the marketing. So you figure out what exactly to say. I'll give you a script of exactly what to say to these folks when you do your outreach, but I just wanted to show you exactly how to find them. So John says program director. So I'm going to put in program director, and I'm going to add one more thing here, because if you see, I just put in program director. I'm going to get like program director at Google, program director at all kinds of things. So I'm going to add program director, and I'm going to also add college or institute or university, for example. So let's see. I don't really like this either. Sometimes you have to play around with your search. So it looks like I put in college, but it gives me still a hodgepodge of things. Let's try university instead. See how I'm just being patient, and I'm just trying a couple different searches to get this right, to get the terms right. Let's see here. Program director. I'm still getting lots of other things. Let me try putting it in quotes. So this is a little bit better, where I'm getting program director, University of Illinois program director, and I may need to change the title a little bit, because program director might not. This is getting me pretty close. But John, if there's a specific type of program, you might add that word in. But you're going to want to play around with this, right? Let's write college program director to get this to exactly what you want, so that you have all of these customers and potential customers here for you. So if you're going to go white label after you build the app, the next thing that you want to go do is you want to then go find the customers, send the message out to them, get on a phone call with them, telling them about your app, and start pitching and explaining what your app does. So John, that is your exact next step, just to be clear on what you should do next. But for everybody, that's the process that you'll take, once you build your app. And I'm not talking about the app in the challenge. We're building a replica of another app. I'm talking about what you'll do in the academy, where you build your own app, right? Cool. What other questions do you have? What other questions do you have about your app, about the challenge, about all that? Now, you probably saw day one. Give me a yes in the chat. Type the word yes in the chat if you've already completed the day one challenge assignment. Type yes into the chat if you've already completed that. Type not yet into the chat if you've not yet done the day one challenge assignment. Type that into the chat for me. But yes, if you've already done it, and not yet. Got it. John's saying for research institutions. So I think you can still sort of see how exactly I'm doing this, where I'm modifying the search. You have a plethora. Like, it's going to be extremely easy for you to find these folks on LinkedIn. So you have a clear path straight ahead for you. Yeah, you can put in program director, research institution, or something like that, and find who you're looking for. Perfect. Good. Okay. Yeah. Tell me yes if you have already done the day one challenge assignment. Type not yet if you're still working on it, just so that I know. Okay. Heal in a minute says like not yet, still working on it. Okay. You have your assignment. Your assignment. You guys want to see what we did in the day one video? Would it help if you could see it? You want to see what you're going to do? Let me pull it up for you so you can see what the day one challenge assignment is all about. So as you know, we are building Tinder. We're building a replica of Tinder. And this week's challenge is about building a replica of an app. I randomly picked Tinder because it has a lot of the components that you're going to need to learn anyway. Profiles, messaging, stuff like that. But so this challenge is about building a replica. The App Dreamers Academy is a program that you can do for building your own app idea, not a replica of something else. Okay, I see some yeses, some not yets. Let me give you a quick preview. If you are a not yet person and you've not yet done the day one challenge, let me show you what we're up to, and you can go and still do it. You've still got time. So let me share my screen. Oh, no, that did not share it. Let's see. Let me know in the chat when you can see my screen. I just had to redo it. You can see it? So we're using a software this week in the challenge called Glide. And it says build powerful apps from spreadsheets. And so the way that this works is, looks kind of like this. Let me actually pull up this video.
Spreadsheet. Glide, I click New App. I can adjust the layout and design.
Can you guys hear this video?
I can adjust the layout and design. I can add components that connect to the data in my sheet. I can add actions so users can change and update the data. And I can customize the app for different users and groups. I can then share the app with anyone using a custom link. And when I make changes to the app, it updates right away. The app works on phones, tablets, the web, and doesn't require an app store. The coolest thing is my app and the spreadsheet stay in sync, so changes to the spreadsheet flow directly to my app. And as different users change or upload their data, it immediately writes back to my sheet. Everything stays in sync. You can make an app with your own data or start with a pre-built template. And when you're ready, you can invite your team and work on apps together. We can't wait to see what you build.
Cool. So that's the software that you're going to be learning to use in this challenge. And so what we're doing is we're building our own Tinder Cell app. And let me explain, by the way, why Glide's website says something about spreadsheets in the first place. Why do you need a spreadsheet at all? Well, you'll learn this in the day one challenge video, but the reason that the spreadsheet is useful is that the spreadsheet is going to operate like your database for your app. And the database is the place that saves information about the customer. So imagine that you download a new app on your phone and you create a profile in the app, and then you go to dinner, and then you come back from dinner and you open up the app again, and the app asks you to create a profile all over again. You'd be like, what? I already did this. Why do I need to create a profile all over again if I already made a profile, right? Well, the thing is that the app has to be able to remember your information. If you type stuff in, it has to save it and remember it. Otherwise, it's going to be a really dumb app if it doesn't save or remember things. So that's what the database/spreadsheet is all about. It's a place for us to save information about our users. And so we started working on this app. You will have created this by the end of day one or day two in the challenge. So we created an app where you can edit your profile, and you can put your name and bio and create a whole profile for yourself. And when you do that, all of those changes get saved into the database, which only you can see the database, right? So when you go do the day one assignment, you will have already this much of an app built, like just on day one. And we're going to get more and more complex as we go. But I wanted to show this to you so that you can see what to expect if you haven't already done it in the day one video. Cool? Make sense? What questions do you have? What questions do you have about what's possible, what you can do, how the academy works? What questions do you have? Let me stop sharing my screen. I'm going to pause. We have a few more minutes for questions, and then I'm going to jump off, and I will see you for the day two challenge assignment. So last call for questions. Any questions that you have about the academy, about your app idea, about the challenge, any of that. I'll give you a moment to ask your questions, and then I'm going to jump off and see you tomorrow. Is this helpful to sort of see how it's possible to build your own app, drag, drop, point, click, to how the database works, to really see that in detail, how to come up with an app idea? Has this been helpful thus far? Good. Okay, last call for questions. Any last questions before I jump off? Thanks for hanging out with me on the live. I will see you inside of your homework assignment videos. I'll give you one more minute. Okay, I see a question that just came in. The question is, I want to build an app for small to medium-sized churches to create informational videos. Got it. There'll be pre-designed templates similar to Canva. I'm not sure what type of app that would be, though. Got it. Great. So I think that there are couple ways that you can do this. And I think there's a follow-up question. Would it be a directory app? Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways that this can work, right? So if let me tell you the truth about this. There are two different ways you could do this. One is you could have it so that they're making their own videos. But from my experience working with folks who are building tools for churches, they actually are not really that interested in doing a lot of DIY stuff. They'd really rather have it done for them. They can find someone to do it for them at an affordable price point. That would be ideal for them. So one thing that would be cool is if you could kind of create this like marketplace of video editors who can put together and maybe bid for things. Almost think like, have you ever used Thumbtack? Thumbtack has nothing to do with videos. It's for people doing like household work, but where people can look for different video editors that work with churches. They can have, so that would be a directory for sure. And then people can look at their profile to see all their information and book them for a job to put something together. Now, that I actually think would be the most lucrative way for you to do this, because you can take a cut and a piece of the transaction. I think that model would probably make you the most money, but that's an idea of a way to structure this in your app. Can I combine my app with Access? What do you mean with Access? Explain what you mean by access. I just want to make sure I'm answering your question correctly. John says, is there a way to reach you one-on-one? So I actually do not do one-on-one sessions, but you can email me and my team. If you email support@appswithoutcode, I'm happy to chat with you and talk with you via email, but I don't do like a one-on-one call, for example. I've heard of Thumbtack, but never used it. Yeah, you might want to look at Thumbtack, not necessarily as a user, but just to like see how they modeled it so you can determine what you like and what you don't like. Right? Cool. Yay. Lisa says, this has been very informative. This is my first video with you, so I don't have any questions. Okay, no worries. Yeah, I think that a good next step, Lisa, you have access to, you saw my email today that came in about the challenge videos, and I gave you the day one assignment. That's probably a really good place for you to start. Great, because today's day one, so it's perfect. All right, awesome. I am going to jump off here, but I will see you as the challenge progresses. If you have not already, here's what I recommend you do. I do recommend that you go back and do the pre-challenge assignments. If you haven't done those, I really recommend that you do it, because I gave you a quick crash course on exactly how to think through how to come up with an app idea, how we do use different softwares to build it yourself. So I definitely recommend you check that out. And then in addition to that, today is day one of the Build Your Own App Challenge. So you have that video and you should start with that to start building the app and sort of seeing how it works. All you have to do is follow my clicks, click by click, and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Okay. All right. I will see you soon. Have a really good one. Bye-bye.